All right, we are back with another episode of Real Talk with Realtors, except today we don't have realtors with us. We have solar experts, I would say, solar guys, my go-tos, and Ben Garcia and Caleb Miller with Apex Electrical here in Chico. So they're going to talk about, I was curious actually, your guys' kind of history in solar. You both used to work at different companies. How long have you been in it? And then we're going to talk about NEM3. We're going to talk about battery packs. We're going to talk about if you have solar, what to check for, how to make sure your system's running properly and all that good stuff. Things you need to know that you didn't know you needed to know.
Awesome. Well, I'm Ben Garcia, like she said, and I've been in the solar industry for probably 10 years now, maybe more, but I was with a different company prior, and then we kind of started this venture with another friend of ours, Alex. Started Apex back in 2019, 2020, somewhere in there, and then here's Caleb to talk about his experience.
Yeah, so I was with a national solar company previously known as Vivint Solar, and then they have actually merged with Sunrun, who is now the largest solar provider in the United States. And I know all of the reasons why you probably shouldn't go with a large company like that. Just from having been on the other side of maintenance, trying to get somebody out there to actually fix your system, the cost that they charge versus what it actually costs to put in versus what a local supplier can give you. There's a lot of disconnects and a big gap between what they're doing for you and what they say they can provide and what they actually do. So
yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah, but Ben and I started, I think, within 3 months of each other in the solar industry like 10 years ago. And then we were kind of on parallel paths. I was on the install, maintenance, management for the operational side, whereas Ben was more on the front end of it, doing bids, actually selling products, contracts, talking to customers, people facing. Yes, relationship. He's a relationship guy. I'm a doer. He's a talker.
You guys are both pretty relational, though.
I thought you were just gonna stop at pretty, and I was really touched.
Pretty also. You guys have also been friends for a long time.
Yes. After I got over the fact that I thought Ben hated me, we became friends.
Okay. I didn't hate him. I just am protective of my friend group, mainly the women. And when he first came around without his wife, we thought his wife was made up for the longest time. And so we only hung out on the weekend. It was only Caleb. And we're like, he's trying to get one of our single ladies.
Oh my gosh.
And so I was a little bit at
Jumping
arm's
to
length.
Conclusions.
Very much so. But this has been my history. So now we're good. I met his wife. It's great.
We're good.
Cool.
Yeah,
okay.
Your wives are amazing. I love them both. They're so sweet. That's why, obviously, we were friends before I knew even that. I guess that our industries were going to collide so much, but just having you guys on speed dial, my phone is so helpful for me. So thank you. You saved my client's booty the other day, and then you came over. Caleb just came over to my house to make sure my solar was functioning well, and then ended up helping my husband with his boat trailer for 2 hours. So that was very nice. The hot topic of solar right now is NEM 3.0. It just went into effect in April, right?
Correct.
March, April. So I know that anybody who's installing their system from April and beyond is in the NEM3 tier. So
almost.
Almost.
So
what does that mean?
If you got your application in prior to April 15th, you can still install a system as long as that application is in.
Okay.
For the next 3 years. They're allowing NEM2. Unfortunately, most folks that if we're talking about solar for the first time, they didn't get that application in. Yeah. So they're dealing with NEM3, and then therefore a little less bang for your buck for the solar.
Mm-hmm. Right. That's a good way to put it. So what's the difference between 2 and 3?
So PG&E kind of came up with this because obviously the bankruptcies, the fires, all this stuff, they were not seeing a good future with how solar was going and how they weren't recouping costs from all the people getting their utilities from them.
Right.
So they made solar less kind of beneficial by cutting the credit that they would give folks whenever you send your power back through the meter. So if you can kind of just picture a day in solar, you're going to be taking from PG&E in the morning before the sun comes up. But now when the sun's up, now you're taking, you're using your power that you're producing on site. Sometimes when the sun is so good, like in the summer months here in Chico, you're going to be producing more in that day than you're using, especially during the day if you're like working away. It's just producing, and your house is not consuming. So you're sending a lot of that excess to PG&E, right? And they're only going to credit you about 8 cents per kilowatt hour, or what they deem as market value for that energy. Whereas they're charging us like 40 cents per kilowatt hour, right? So like there's a big difference, because before in EM2, it was a 1-for-1. So you could offset your bill 100% for the year by just offsetting your energy usage.
Got it.
Now, if I offset that same energy usage with a solar system, you're without a battery, you're probably looking at like 50 to 60% of your bill offset, not 100%.
Oh, okay.
It's quite a difference.
So is that how solar works? Is you're paying for the energy you're using from PG&E, but then you're getting credit back from PG&E for what you're sending back to the grid, and it cancels each other out?
Exactly.
Oh.
So PG&E is kind of like your storage bank for your dollars in a way.
Oh, okay.
So that's how it offsets, because in the winter you might not produce as much as you're using because you less sun hours. But you right now in EM2 clients, they make up for that in the summer months, right? Because PG&E just holds on to that. So that's why they true up with you every year.
Got it. So the battery pack.
So the battery pack comes into play, and I'm hoping they get less expensive, because right now, like you said, $15,000 for a battery install is quite a bit. But I mean, if you start installing those battery packs, then you're storing it on site. You're using it when you need it. You're not sending it back to PG&E for a lot less credit.
Right.
So that is starting to make sense. And, you know, before in EM2, we were looking at like a 4 to 5 year payback on just a solar system. Now with the solar plus the battery, it's looking more like a 7 year, maybe even a 10 year, depending on if you put one battery pack or two. But again, that cost definitely has gone up, because solar hasn't really come down much in price yet, and the batteries are trending down, but they're not as low as they need to be for this all to like get there. But it's coming. And I think that's going to be the future of solar, like you asked me earlier, is like what is coming, what's next. Batteries should get cheaper, and they're going to be just commonplace with every solar install, because the financial makes sense now. If you got into NEM2 before this NEM3 thing happened, you had 20 years grandfathered in. Okay. So if we can keep that somehow with that meter, with that house for that 20 years, it'd be so beneficial for your clients moving in if they've only had it for 5 years. And then they got another 15 years of that. That'd be great to like bank on, right?
So does NEM2 and 3, is that a PG&E thing, or it's those 3 companies?
It's the California Public Utilities Commission was the governing body who decided that, and then PG&E, San Diego, all of the publicly traded or utility commissions in California adopted that from them.
So if you're in Sacramento, you don't have NEM.
No, so you're under the SMUD rules in Sacramento. So which are different. SMUD has their benefits and their own issues.
Right.
For sure. But you know, they can be a bit of a pain to work with sometimes. But so it's not just us, which makes it not feel any better.
Right. So if a client does want to get solar, what are a couple things that they should be looking at or for in terms of like their system, their production, what cost to expect? Like even if you could give a ballpark for like a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,500 square feet, family of 4 kind of thing?
So we're primarily installing in-phase microinverters, which control the solar, but they also make them where they control the battery system as well. And they're all like integrated together. So we like that system because you're able to kind of have one app to do it all.
In fact, we're even introducing car chargers to that same app as well. So you can charge your vehicle off of your solar, off of your battery, have all of the access and all the control in one spot to be able to manage that and see everything.
On your app, on your phone. Cool.
Yep. As well as actually be able to see the production of your system and how much you're consuming. So you can see if your production and your consumption are meeting in the middle, and you're not surprised at the end of the year when you get that true up and hey, my system actually didn't produce anything, or I used so much more because I thought it was cheaper now that I had solar. So you can kind of avoid those fun phone calls at the end of the year. Thank you for holding the mic.
I told you to take it.
I need to do that. I went to do that, and it was like $200, and so I didn't do it. But I should do it. It's on the list. Anyways, keep going. Who wants it? Eeny, meeny, miny, moe.
Another feature. Okay, so the reason I'm kind of going into this is because I don't want to speak about like, all the things. I'm just kind of focusing on what we are more familiar with and are offering. Another feature is, if you have the battery capability, you have that backup where if power does go out, it does help offset at least a critical loads panel. So like keeping your fridge going, lighting.
So it doubles as a
internet.
generator.
It does.
Okay.
Right. Cool. Right. So it stores your power and it helps with your bill offset in NEM3, but then it also can act as a backup.
Okay.
There is another feature where you don't have to add the backup and it's a little bit cheaper. So you could be doing batteries for under 10,000 if you're only doing storage to offset the bill and not worry about backup. Because in Chico, we don't lose a lot of power.
Yeah.
So if you're looking for kind of a cheaper option, you could pair a battery with your solar for less than $10,000.
Okay.
Right. And you can always come back later and add that backup feature.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
The for like an average size home in Chico, looking at solar would be probably about like 20,000 for the solar, and then another, depending on if you had the backup or not, 10 to 15,000 for the battery.
Okay.
And that would get you to almost probably close to a 75% bill offset with one battery.
Okay.
So you'd still have a little bit that you'd be paying to PG&E, but definitely hurt a lot less.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you, would you just add more solar panels to offset the NEM3 cost? Or
No.
lack of
So yeah, if you think about if you're adding more panels and you're sending more back to PG&E at less credit, you're not actually getting ahead because they're still charging you way more than they're crediting
You're
you.
paying more for the panels than it's worth coming back.
You'd have to add 4 times as many panels as you need in order to get enough credit to actually offset it, which at that point you might as well just pay PG&E for their power.
Yeah.
So yeah, batteries are really the only beneficial means of actually being able to offset that with NEM3.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Good
Yeah,
to know.
and the
Thank
great
you.
thing now in California is you're required to put solar on a new home.
Yes.
And you're required to go into NEM3, and then you only get one bill at the end of the year. So, surprise, surprise, you get a bill for almost all of your power 12 months later.
Oh, no.
And enjoy your new house.
Oh, no. I'm
Good news
selling a
is
couple new
you
builds.
can
so I'll
force
tell 'em
them to just give you monthly bills for that as well. So,
that. Oh, okay. Okay.
I was going to ask if you've dealt with that yet, like a new home with solar being forced to be put on it. Okay.
But I haven't heard of my client getting a bill 12 months later because sometimes they would tell me that. Most of the time they wouldn't think to tell me that.
I got you.
Yeah. But yeah, I have a client in escrow right now who you have the option to do a PPA, a power purchase agreement, or just put it, you can buy it outright with cash, or you can put it into your mortgage. Basically the builder pays for it and they just tack it on to the price of the home.
Yeah.
So I think he's doing that option, but I don't know if the builder and the lender is not explaining all these things to them. So unless there's a solar person who they work with explaining it, they're not going to know.
Yeah,
Which they might have someone, I don't know.
And I've looked at a lot of plans that have the solar requirement on there, and it is
Small.
typically tiny.
I know.
Compared to what the home is actually going to use. So I think that was one of the ways that California got that through, is that they said we're not going to require the full offset amount. We're just going to require some solar. But really, the client, I think, is going to be the one to not benefit as much if they're just getting a system that's only going to offset 20% of their bill.
Yeah.
And then they get 80% in 1 month.
Yeah.
That's tough.
Yeah. That's really
and
tough.
if they don't know these things going into it, that's a shocker.
I'm going to text him right when we're done with this and tell him about that.
Probably
and I
a good
might have
call.
him call you guys.
Yeah. Have them call us.
Just
We
so
can add to any system.
As long as it's not under a lease from another company or a power purchase agreement from another company. If it's purchased and owned solar, we can add on to anything. We can add batteries to almost anything.
Okay.
There's a lot of options to be able to kind of offset or at least help with a small or underperforming system. If you move into a house that's doesn't have what it needs, and there's always a way to kind of help that situation.
So are you guys installing a lot of residential right now? Or are you installing more commercial?
We do primarily residential. Things have slowed since NEM3, so we've also moved into doing just a ton of general electrical as well, and that's mostly in the commercial sector. But solar's still my specialty. So
Yeah. I know. It's awesome. And solar, you would do a solar inspection for an escrow.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
For a little inspection fee, you can come out and look at everything.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, and we can always, have Enphase send the email to swap the ownership over to the new customer, so that way the new customer, the new owner actually has those warranties covering their system. They can get their system information. I think it's, like you said, it's a $200 fee to do it, but at the end of the day, it is worth it to be able to make sure that you're actually producing. And even under NEM2, if your system stops producing and you're not monitoring that, then you are going to end up with a bill at the end of the year that's going to be a real tough pill to swallow.
Yeah. And you're already, when you're buying a house, you're spending so much money, like as it is on inspections. I'm like, just tack on another $200. You're already in the mindset of like spending that money.
Yeah.
So like if I had done that when I bought the house, I wouldn't have thought twice about it. But now I'm like, oh, I don't want to do it, Yeah, but I will.
Sure.
After hearing this conversation, I'm going to do it. I swear. You have something?
Another thing, just with, I think Brandy asked like, oh, are we screwed if we didn't get into solar yet? I would say, obviously we talked about the battery. We talked about how you can still make it worth it. It's just a little bit more money, but I mean, they still have the 30% tax credit as a rebate.
True.
For the whole system. So that added battery, the solar, all of it's kind of bundled into one price, and you still get that 30% tax credit on the whole thing.
Cool.
Okay. So
That's
I feel like that is helpful to remember, because that is really what helps that payback make it worth it. So it's like you can look at it, well, I can pay PG&E for the next 20 years, or I can pay this thing off in 10 years sort of deal with the payback. And then I can be kind of putting money in my pocket after that.
So you can kind of give the client idea of your break-even point. Like you need to stay in this house for 7 to 10 years or whatever before you start making money on it, I guess. Or not spending.
Yeah, exactly. So like if you're like, oh, I'm going to only live here for 5 years, it's like, well, you're not going to pay back that system you're spending all this money on, but maybe it does increase the value of your home, right?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, do we want to talk about the system itself, the monitoring? I mean, we kind of touched on that, but what should people look for specifically, maybe when they're even buying a new home?
So I mean, my general policy is just the more information you have, the better. So getting that system, having the realtor check with the seller and make sure that they have access to it, that they can transfer that access to you, make sure it's something that's in the conversation, because it's so easy for those things to get lost. And then 6 months later, like, oh yeah, I do have solar that I should probably figure out. So just knowing that.
Maybe we need like a sheet.
Sheets are great.
Like a document that the seller can fill out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Would you help me with that?
Yeah.
Like maybe make something with like, this is the information that you guys would recommend having from the buyer, like the not a SKU number, but
the manufacturer of your inverter, the number of panels that you have,
what year it was installed,
what year it was installed, how many years are left on your warranty, things like that are all really good pieces of information to have.
I think we should do that.
Have you had a true up? And stuff like that would be really good to know from a seller. So we can definitely put something like that together. That will be on Laffins realestate.com.org.
It would just be a document, like a DocuSign that we have someone fill out.
At laffins.realestate.org.net.
Like a disclosure,
absolutely. I think it's a great idea.
Okay, that would be great.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, touch base on that.
Yes.
Anyways, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you
remember what you were saying.
And then there's other resources too to kind of that even as a third party can monitor how much solar you're producing and how much the house is actually consuming. There's one called a Sense. I think they run $200 to $400 depending on whether you just get one for the home or one for the home and solar. But it can actually, it's fairly easy to install. We've done it. Or I've known homeowners that have done it themselves. But it actually reads, it's really interesting, the electronic frequency of the different loads, and it can tell you, hey, your vacuum cleaner used this much power this month, your refrigerator used this much power, just by looking at the frequency, and it's able to pull all that information. It might all be made up, I don't know, but
it's not.
It's not made
It's
up.
incredible.
Who do you get that from?
So Sense, I think it's just sense.com.
Oh, okay.
We're not sponsored by them.
We're not sponsored by.
Maybe you should.
Please sponsor us.
Hey, Sense.
It does make a lot of sense. It is sense.com. Just looking right down the barrel.
It makes a lot of sense. To
Yeah,
get one.
but yeah, so there's products out there like that. So even if you don't have direct monitoring on your solar, you can just get a third-party device like that for a fairly inexpensive price tag, and know what's going on in your house, how much you're using to charge your car, how much is going to your hot tub, especially big loads where it's like, oh, we're losing a lot of money here or paying a lot every month. It's like, well, you can find out specifically where those costs are coming from, and then actually how to bring those costs down.
That is helpful, because sometimes I'm like, what did I do to make this a huge jump or something?
Yeah.
I mean, one time it was my fireplace when gas went up in price.
Oh, man.
That was wild. I think we all got kind of hit by that, because I thought it'd be cheaper to run the gas fireplace than heating the whole house, and I was wrong.
Turns out HVAC's a lot more efficient.
A lot more efficient. Oh my gosh. I think it was like a $300 bill.
Yeah.
Like just gas.
Yeah,
That was
they're
wild.
Purely aesthetic, turns
Yes.
out.
Yeah. Like never turning that on again.
And I was used to like $90.
Yes.
Right? It was like never over 100. And then
No.
all of a sudden it was just like, bam.
Yeah.
PG&E raised the price.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, sorry, we have no control over this. It is just the market value of the gas right now. It's like, oh my gosh.
Has gas gone down at all? Do you guys know?
I don't follow gas as much as I
don't
do
either.
electric.
I don't either. Just on my bill.
I'm just like, fingers crossed it's
I
not as
know.
bad this winter.
I know. We'll just heat our whole house.
Seriously. Or just put in an electric heat pump, and then you just offset it with solar.
Now there's an idea.
It takes a lot of panels to offset, just so you know.
And if you need those panels,
Call Apex.
apexelectrical.net.
Well, any last thoughts? It's a good idea to get an inspection done during escrow, you think?
I would. Yeah, I would get an inspection done during escrow just to know whether the system that they say is owned solar and is helped out a ton is actually providing the service that it says it is.
Okay.
The house that I went to for one of your clients the other day, homeowner installed, and the list of issues just kept growing the more I kind of dug into things.
Okay.
So it is definitely worthwhile to get someone out there who knows what they're doing, just to make sure that, number one, it's safe. You're not going to have, that one had arcing issues on the roof itself. And while it wasn't a big deal, it could have eventually caused a fire and burned the entire house down.
Don't want that. So
exactly.
especially if it's
So
homeowner installed, it needs an inspection.
I would recommend it for any system.
Yeah.
Homeowner installed, probably even a little bit more in that aspect. But so get an inspection, and then just keep an eye on and make sure you know what your solar's doing. It's easy to kind of just forget about it. It's there. It's doing its thing.
Yep,
But if it's registered to you, if there's an issue, they will send you an email that says, hey, your system's not producing, or your system's no longer connected. We don't know what's going on with it. And those are really easy things to take care of in the short term. The longer those issues go, the more money it ends up costing.
Yep, every time.
Yeah.
Cool.
Sweet.
Anything else? We're good? You guys feel good about that? Got all the things out there
I think so.
in the open?
Yeah.
I feel like we have a lot of questions.
Feel like you answered a lot of questions.
Yeah, I think
you
you
did.
did great.
It was very thorough, very easy to understand. That was our goal, because solar is complicated and things are changing and it's scary.
It's real dumb.
Yeah, it's
They
dumb.
made it so dumb.
So we just want to dumb it down for
Yeah.
all of us lay people. So if you guys need to be reached, how can people reach you for solar inspections, solar install bids?
You can reach us through our website, apexelectrical.net, or you could reach us at 530-693-4513, which I knew off the top of my head.
Which is Ben's number?
No, that actually gets you to
that's the
Apex
office.
Electrical phone tree, and then you can just get me or Ben.
Okay, sounds good.
Make sure to listen to the hold music.
Oh, yeah. That's Alex Draper.
Oh, his music's on there?
He's our hold music.
Very cool.
And my phone number is 530-433-3654.
Perfect. And then obviously, like, anyone who watches this can contact me to get your guys' info too.
Definitely.
So cool. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having
on the
us.
fly.
Bye.
Bye.
We always say, peace out. Mic drop.